Hey guys! Today talking about struggles and challenges of starting up a new business, of being a musician, maybe being a human being, just sharing some of that load with you guys and see whether, we can as a community come up with some good ideas and good solutions to overcome certain sort of troubles and problems. Um, and I thought I'd do it here in my garden so you can see how it looks like from the outside. It looks a little bit scraggly at the moment. After the winter, the garden needs always a bit of love. I had to cut down the fig tree here, which is a little bit sad, but it makes it a bit airier here. This jasmine here needs to be tucked back. Here this is all wild stuff. There's a cool flower actually coming out, so that we're gonna leave for a bit. And my kids are just running around and playing with things here, and it's really great. Quite grateful for this space here. Where do I start? So the early challenges of the business, I think it's, and probably of any business that starts up, is just the pace of the world, the fast moving sort of pace of the modern world. And also the flow of information, the constant stimulation, the constant overflow of information. I'm reading this book by Yuval Nahari, who wrote The Sapiens and this trilogy you might be familiar with. And a friend of mine recommended Nexus, which is his fourth book, I guess, in the series. And I'm just listening to the prologue, and it's about the flow of information and how that's sort of the new, I guess, the superpower. And I think that just also makes you feel overwhelmed. Or that makes me feel overwhelmed, I think, and sort of coping mechanisms, or trying to come up with coping mechanisms of, not constantly looking at everything, constantly being aware of everything. The thing is, you at the same time, I have to be aware of things, of trends, or at least in the industry, But even there, it's mainly, I guess, not mainly, but a lot of the times it's negative. It's the AI, is constantly a subject, and sort of, I think a good way is just being more inward and just focusing on sort of our own adventures and our own life and our own sort of daily thing. Just yesterday I was having lunch with my wife. I try to have lunch every day with my wife, and we chat and we laugh, and it's great. And I was just saying that I'm feeling like it's overwhelming everything, and I'm not sure I'm going the right direction with anything that I'm doing, and sort of we try to encourage each other. She's also doing a startup in a sort of agricultural business, I guess you could call it. And I think to keep being sort of in the music side, I think we have, it's dawned up on me sort of throughout the last year. I think we have way too many options for anything. With the AI is just making this kind of thing worse. We have too many options, too much information flow. Our brain is sort of all over the shop, and I think sort of narrowing these things down again, I think is for me, that's the key, that's the goal I want to work towards. Focusing on me, on the community I'd like to build. And, when creating, I think it's even more important, and that's a little bit where the Smokestack Sounds idea came from. I mean, I'm saying to narrow the options, but I'm chucking in more plugins into the pool of the plugin world, which is already quite saturated. Fred again, for example, said recently in Music Radar that he has like 12 plugins that he uses, and that we should get rid of all plugins. So I think maybe sort of a reset of our tools or so wouldn't be a bad thing. But I sort of, I had the luck of working with Spitfire and now with many other beautiful companies such as Westwood or Emergence, and being able to have my hands on those tools, and it's just so wonderful and inspiring at the same time. But I think what I'm also trying to do with Smokestack Sounds is I'm trying to obviously first support artists, create a bit of an extra income stream for them, and then limiting the options. I think creativity is defined by limitations, and so being able or not being able to do certain things might make you creative. This is going to be sort of the thing forwards. You know, I think if too many people use AI to create stuff, or even if they use it as an assistant, I think it's gonna show. It's gonna make things more homogeneous, and I'm all for making things much more colorful, you know, and much more interesting and unique, and everybody should be sort of unique, or everybody is unique, and I think we should see that in the creativity and in the music as well. And so that was my sort of idea behind creating tools, you know, on that side. And I actually do the same when I create albums or music. I try to have a very limited sort of palette, you know, working inside a pool house that is not acoustically treated, and being like, okay, I'm working with these three voices. I'm also using a woodwind duo, and then I'm using my piano, and that's sort of the bulk of the album. And with that, I have to navigate through the jungle of my ideas, or through the things I want to do, and I believe it makes a very unique outcome. Then, you know, just doing kind of what everybody else does, you know. It's fine. It needs to be, you know, here and there we need to create a score or something that just needs to sound like that, or it has to do a job, it has to fulfill a thing, and then that's what we've got to do. You know, you can't be unique or original. You can't reinvent the wheel, you know, in that sense. But so yeah, that's sort of definitely the early challenges, the massive amounts of information flow, the saturation of the market we're in. Not comparing myself to other businesses or musicians or producers that might have had you know, a longer career already, or just a different career. Not everybody has a different career, everybody has different values, you know. There's no point in comparing. And I don't want to get too sort of philosophical. How do you say that word? Philosophical? That's it, philosophical. Although it's nice to get philosophical, and I wish I could invite people. It looks kind of sad. I'm having like a tea with an empty chair here. But no, I'm kidding. I'm having a tea with you guys. So, yeah, share your struggles, your challenges. Maybe it'd be great to read what you kind of miss in the sample industry, in this market. You know, what kind of tool would you like to have on your fingertips? And I think we can pick up the conversation, and what strategies do you have to cope with the constant information flow, with the noise that there is there. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and your input. Okay, I always think I move into quiet village, but here we have there's a tractor going on here. There's dogs there. I guess birds. I love birds, but there's always a bit of noise. I guess whenever you need to record something quietly or mix, there's always a little bit of sort of distraction going on. But I don't want to complain. And yeah, cheers. I hope you're enjoying a cup of tea as well, or a cup of coffee while watching this. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'm gonna get back in and create some cool stuff for you, which is gonna come your way very soon. Bye.